Hey, Al, how are you? Good to talk to you. This is George Merlis from the Los Angeles Times. Um, could I ask you to start by saying and spelling your name for me and telling me what it is you do in connection with the Mars 2020 Perseverance mission?
Hi, George. My name is Al Chen. That's A-L, last name Chen, C-H-E-N. I am the entry, descent, and landing lead for the Mars 2020 mission, and I have been since coming off the Curiosity mission back in 2012.
So you've landed on Mars before using the sky crane technology. How is 2020 Perseverance different from Curiosity in terms of technology and challenges?
From the outside, the Perseverance landing system looks a lot the same as Curiosity's. It's kind of like my smartphone. It looks basically the same as it did 10 years ago, but it's a bit heavier, it's a bit bigger, has more microphones and cameras, and is a lot smarter and more capable. And because it's smarter and more capable, we're sending it to a much more difficult site to land at, a site called Jezero Crater, which the scientists love, but is full of things that make me cringe, that are dangerous for us to land on, like a 60 to 80 meter tall cliff going right through the middle of it, craters to the west, and rock fields to the east. Luckily this time, we've armed Perseverance with a new system called terrain relative navigation. And that gives Perseverance an eyes and a map on its way down, figure out where she is, and fly to a safe spot nearby. So we can avoid all those hazards that we see at the landing site.
I understand there's also an enhanced camera system, so the rest of us back here on Earth are going to get a fuller view of this landing than we've had in the past. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
My kids like to tell me Pixar it didn't happen. Perseverance is carrying a whole new system to have pics and video and audio throughout landing. So after we return, we'll be able to hear and see what it's like to land on Mars for the first time, really. We'll have video looking up at the parachute deploying supersonically. We'll have video of that sky crane maneuver from the descent stage, our rocket-powered jetpack, looking down at the rover, touching down on Mars. And we'll have video from the rover looking up at the descent stage, dropping it off safely in Jezero Crater.
Talk me through the entry, descent, and landing, and especially I think people would be interested in the relative speed at the various stages.
Sure. Landing on Mars is all about finding a way to stop, and stop in a safe place. Perseverance will hit the top of the atmosphere at nearly 5.4 kilometers per second, but needs to touch down at about 0.75 meters per second to safely land at Jezero. Perseverance first uses the atmosphere to slow down, streaking across the Martian sky like a meteor. Not only does it have to survive that part, but it's got to steer its way to the landing target to make sure we get to Jezero Crater and can land in it. So once we get down, using the atmosphere to slowing once Perseverance gets down to supersonic speeds, it'll deploy a large 21.5-meter parachute while still traveling almost twice the speed of sound. That slows the spacecraft down even further. While still slowing down on the parachute, Perseverance needs to figure out where it is. To do that, jettison the heat shield that protected it from burning up in the upper atmosphere, and uses a radar and new system called terrain relative navigation to figure out where it is. But the parachute isn't enough to slow Perseverance down for landing. In fact, the spacecraft is still going more than 80 meters per second when the parachute is done slowing it down. That's as fast as a skydiver without a parachute would be going if they were diving straight down to the ground. So Perseverance will fire up rocket engines at that point, fly to a safe spot identified by that terrain relative navigation system, and slow down to 0.75 meters per second right above it. Then it's ready for sky crane. Perseverance will lower itself from its rocket-powered jetpack and maneuver for a gentle touchdown at a speed slower than I walk, at 0.75 meters per second or so.
You can't rehearse the whole thing from beginning to end on Earth because Earth isn't Mars. So how do you know how it will work?
There's a mantra at JPL and NASA that goes something like this: test as you fly and fly as you test. Unfortunately, because we're going to Mars, we can't test as we fly here on Earth. Gravity's wrong, the atmosphere is wrong, the terrain's wrong, everything's wrong about Earth and different than Mars. So what we have to do is kind of test the system in pieces. We test each individual system, the rocket engines on their own, the parachute on their own, and understand the behavior of each of those pieces individually, and then assemble it in simulation. So really, we have to fly as we simulate and simulate as we fly.
Okay, that sound pretty much covers my questions, except for this one. Did the scientists pick out this landing site just to vex you EDL guys, or is there a valid science reason for it?
Jezero certainly presents its dangers from the landing perspective, and it certainly raises the challenge for us. But the payoff is worth it. The scientists can see what's there at Jezero, that there was an ancient river that flowed into there, that it deposited this great, well-preserved river delta in that site. That has it's the best place we can find on Mars to fulfill our mission, which is to seek the signs of past life.
That covers my questions. Anything else you think my readers should know about EDL for Perseverance?
Well, as the landing lead, landing on Mars is the end of my journey. This is really just the beginning of our grand relay race here to bring pieces of Mars back to Earth. Mars 2020, the Perseverance rover, is out there, is being sent to Mars to prepare samples for return to Earth, eventually return to Earth. So this is the first leg of that relay race, and I'm really excited to get it going.
Oh, great. Good luck, and thank you for doing this. And Al, hi, this is George Merlis from KABC Television in Los Angeles. Thank you so much for joining us. I see over your left shoulder the sky crane for Perseverance rover, but the sky crane is the last step in a multi-step process of EDL. Can you talk me through the whole process and what the challenges are at each step of the way?
Sure. Landing on Mars is all about finding a way to stop, and stop in a safe place. Perseverance, like Curiosity, will hit the top of the atmosphere going almost 12,500 miles per hour, but needs to touch down going about 1.5 miles per hour to land safely in Jezero crater. Perseverance first uses the atmosphere to slow down, moving across the Martian sky like a meteor. Not only does it have to survive the intense heat and the deceleration that it experiences during that deceleration, but it also has to steer its way to the landing target. After slowing down to supersonic speeds, Perseverance will still deploy a large, about 70-foot parachute, while still traveling almost twice the speed of sound. That'll slow the spacecraft down even further. While still slowing down on the parachute, Perseverance needs to figure out where it is. To do that, it jettisons the heat shield that protected it from burning up in the upper atmosphere and uses a radar and a new system called terrain relative navigation to figure out where it is. But the parachute isn't enough to slow Perseverance down for landing. In fact, the spacecraft is still going more than about 160 miles per hour, while the parachute is slowing it down. That's about as fast as you or I could go if we jumped out of an airplane and pointed our head straight down to the ground. So Perseverance will fire up its engines at that point, get rid of the parachute, and fly to a safe spot identified by the terrain relative navigation system. Slow down to about 1.5 miles per hour right above it, and then get ready for sky crane. Just like you kind of see over my shoulder here, Perseverance will lower itself down from its rocket-powered jetpack to maneuver for a gentle touchdown at a speed slower than I walk.
When you're using that the sky crane, can that move horizontally as well in order to find the ideal landing space? And if so, how does it? Because I don't see wings on it.
Perseverance, when it drops out from the back shell and gets rid of its parachute, still going about 160 miles an hour, uses its rocket engines to fly directly over the spot that it wants to land. And it's one of the safe spots that have been identified by that terrain relative navigation system. That system is really what's allowing us to land at a site like Jezero crater, which the scientists love because it's full of interesting science targets like this river delta that is well preserved from ancient Mars. But when I look at it as a landing person, it gives me the creeps. Right? There's danger all over the place. Right in the middle of that delta, the edge of that delta is a 60 to 80 meter, say 300 foot tall or so, 200 or 300 foot tall cliff, right in the middle of where we're trying to land. Over to the west, there are craters that if we landed there, the rover wouldn't be able to drive out of. And there are rocks to the east, in the eastern part of the landing site, where if we put the rover down during a sky crane, we would have a bad day. So it's really terrain relative navigation that gives us the ability, gives Perseverance the ability to figure out where she is on the way down and use those rockets to fly to safe spots that are kind of interspersed among all those hazards.
Is Perseverance appreciably different in terms of its dimensions than Curiosity?
Perseverance is a little bit bigger than Curiosity. It's kind of like my smartphone. It looks basically the same from the outside, but it's bigger, heavier. It has more microphones and cameras, and is a lot smarter, and a lot more capable. The rover itself is a little over 1,000 kilos, about the 2,000 pounds, or a little over 2,000 pounds. And that's about 10% heavier or so than Curiosity was.
Did you have to beef up the cables on the sky crane because of the extra weight?
Because Perseverance is a little bit heavier, we had to make some adjustments to the whole landing system to make sure that we landed safely. However, the bridles that we use, those cables that attach our rocket power jack to the rover below us, didn't really need much change. We made slight tweaks to those based on the weight, but not much of the change was required.
Now, obviously, it's tough you can't do an end-to-end test of something like this on Earth, because everything about Earth is different from everything about Mars. So how do you know it will work?
To make sure that our system will work on Mars, we do a lot of testing in pieces. We can't do a whole system test because Earth itself is very different than Mars. The gravity's wrong, the atmosphere is different, the terrain that we're going to is pretty different. So what we do is we test the system in pieces. We've done high altitude parachute testing, supersonic parachute testing here on Earth, new since first time we've done that for a Mars mission since before Viking, actually. We've also tested the engines individually. We've tested all the pieces individually. But because we can't do that system test, we can't really test as we fly and fly as we test. So instead, we take those individual pieces, build models of those pieces, and then assemble it in simulation so that we can simulate as we fly and hopefully fly as we simulate.
Perseverance is going to gather some samples that will be returned to Earth. So whatever it is that goes and gets those samples, not only has to be a rover that can go around and find them and pick them up, but also has to have some kind of launch vehicle to get off Mars. What are the EDL challenges of that going to be?
Perseverance is the first leg of our grand sample return relay race, where we have to go find Perseverance's mission is to go find those samples that are worth bringing home to Earth. The next mission, which is already in work, is the sample retrieval landing, which, as you mentioned, needs to land on Mars and then collect our samples and then launch them up from Mars. So we believe that a lot of the technologies that we're developing here and are proving out with Perseverance will be used to land that sample retrieval landing, particularly terrain relative navigation, giving our system the eyes in a map to be able to see all those hazards in the landing site that we're going to and fly to safe places is a key piece of the technology we need to pull off the entire campaign.
Okay, that about covers my questions. Anything else you think it's vital for our viewers to know about Perseverance and its landing on Mars?
I'm very excited for our viewers to see, and I'm really excited for myself, really, to see and hear what it's going to be like to land on Mars. The Perseverance system carries a camera system and microphone system on board that'll collect all sorts of video and audio from our landing. And after we land safely, we'll return that to Earth so we can really see what it's like to land on Mars with Perseverance.
Okay, well, thank you and good luck with it.